Testing. Right. Pleasant good night to each and everyone. Welcome to U97.5 FM, Douglas Radio, hot like pepper. Today, of course, we are down in St Helena, and of course, we will be coming to you live on the UNC platform, Douglas Politics, Facts Not Fiction, and of course, right here on U97.5 FM. We want to welcome each and everyone, and today, as we begin our proceedings, as usual, I want to start first of all by calling to your attention some things that has been happening over the past months in our country. We have seen a couple of weeks ago, ladies and gentlemen, as I went to the Piaco International Airport, we have seen the government of Trinidad and Tobago, who have contracted some British prosecutors and then allegedly made them SRPs in our jurisdiction in order to conduct some investigation where the Anti-Corruption Bureau said in statements that they could not go any further. Ladies and gentlemen, when we examine those documents, we have seen a couple nights ago on the Monday Night Forum that Dr. Rudal Monilal and also some of our frontline speakers have brought to your attention documentation which was leaked to the outside as to going after certain politicians within the United National Congress. Today, ladies and gentlemen, with the time that is allotted to me, I want to go straight, first of all, to the Commissioner of Police, the Acting Commissioner of Police, none other than Mr. Jacob. And while Mr. Jacob had said to us that he was not interested in that position, a matter of fact, the Keith Rowley administration, in order to appoint Jacob to that position, they had to make moves to dismantle the Police Service Commission, which they did by interfacing and interfering. And as a result of the collapse of the Police Service Commission, what they did, a matter of fact, is those who were just below Gary Griffith, they too went through the window, and the political directorate had their choice of appointing one who would listen to the advice of the National Security Minister, and by extension listen to the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask Mr. Jacob why they pay $40 million to contract these individuals. I want to take the time to ask Mr. Jacob tonight, what is the position with the investigation in relation to Camille Robinson Regis and that bank situation where $143,800,000 is under investigation. And I want to also ask Jacob, what is the position with the Inez Gate investigation, where the Prime Minister of this country, as he boasts that he is a businessman, and he boasts that he received some 400,000 plus as a gift in relation to a unit that he purchased, as well as his wife and his child. We want to ask the Commissioner of Police, what is the position, if any investigation into these allegations is forthcoming. I want to further ask Jacob, what is the position with the AV drilling file, because we know for a fact that Gary Griffith, when he left as a result of what transpired between the President and Dr. Keith Rowley, we know for a fact that Gary Griffith was on public record stating that the investigation into the Avery drilling matter is alive. And Gary Griffith also said that they were waiting for some international forensic individual to come to Trinidad, where they would be going down to the Catshill area to conduct some kind of forensic testing and investigation in relation to that oil scandal. Today, ladies and gentlemen, while we are hearing about this SRP Kate, who we know is appointed to investigate the UNC, some of the UNC frontline MPs and Speaker, I want to ask Jacob tonight, what is the position with all these investigations? We have seen, ladies and gentlemen, a Prime Minister who came to our Parliament with something purported to be that of emails and make a big scandal as a result. Together with the conspiracy of the press, they were able to put on front page on a daily basis UNC leader and others. They are planning to murder a journalist. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen, after a number of investigations, we have seen these allegations to be false. Today I am asking Mr. Jacob, how many of those individuals who are under investigation on the PNM side, how many devices they have seized, and how many devices that they are looking at emails with alleged corruption, millions of dollars in taxpayers' money, millions of dollars in your money going down the drain as a result of PNM corruption. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have not heard one iota from the police commissioner whether or not investigation into all these allegations of wrongdoing by this PNM regime, if any investigation is taking place. I went to the BTAM day before yesterday, a matter of fact yesterday, and when I went down to the BTAM, I have seen Fitzgerald Hines is on record telling this country that $12 million paving is taking place in the BTAM. When I went down into the BTAM, ladies and gentlemen, I saw just approximately 200 or 300 meters of paving, and we have seen documentation on the press, $12 million, and this is the kind of thing that is happening within our country. And today we are not hearing anyone speaking out and condemning the corruption of this PNM government. We have seen, ladies and gentlemen, that this government continue to demonstrate geographical discrimination throughout this country, and those independent institutions who we will believe will stand up and speak out against what is happening today, because every one of them receives some sort of financial assistance during the pandemic. Today, every individual, every independent institution in this country remains quiet with the wrongdoing of this PNM government. We have seen the president together with the prime minister misbehave at the highest stage of our democracy, and today we have witnessed the collapse of that said police service commission. And today we are not hearing about any investigation. We are not hearing about Bliss Sipasad statement. We are not hearing about members of the commission if they were interviewed by this commissioner of police, and statements have been recorded, and very soon some sort of prosecution will take place. But you see, in this country there is one law for the PNM and another law for us. That is what is happening today, ladies and gentlemen. The presidents continue to sit in a high office after she have misbehaved herself in public office, and today we are not hearing anything from those so-called constitutional lawyers. I would have expected a gentleman by the name of Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, who we know in this country has taken up a number of constitutional issues in this country and was victorious. I was listening to hear what Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj have to say on this situation between the Prime Minister and the President. But you see, I want to tell you something. What is happening in this country? We have seen a high-ranking official of the Law Association, who is a senior counsel, who we would have expected to speak out against the wrongdoing of the President and the Prime Minister as a result of what took place. But what happened, ladies and gentlemen, is that they remain quiet, and next thing we know, they are appointed to positions in government, and that is what these independent institutions represent. These independent institutions, they are PNMB team. I am putting on record tonight that these independent institutions who ought to be looking out at the interests on your behalf, who should be speaking out for you, the citizens of this country. When you examine the Constitution, the separation of powers will give these independent institutions the prerogative, the power to speak out against wrongdoing, to be that checks and balance in governance, so that you, the people, would be able to get justice. But we have seen, ladies and gentlemen, all that is taking place in this country. We have seen that every independent institution quiet. A matter of fact, when you examine the Senate and when you look at the appointments of the independent senators who was appointed by the President, you see, what you have to bear in mind is if the head mad, then the body will do mad things. The foot and the hand and the mouth and everything will perform according to the head. So if we have the head of state in this country, who ought to be the President, who ought to hold the Constitution in high esteem, who ought to protect the Constitution with her life, sitting as the head of state. And if that President could conspire with a Prime Minister, and as a result of that, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen the disaster and continue to see, because it's because of that misbehavior, that blunder. Today we now have in the acting Commissioner of Police office a man who will listen, who will act on behalf of the PNM. That is where we are. And that is why when the UNC take any form of protest action, any form whatsoever, what you will see, because of the interference of the police service, what you will see, ladies and gentlemen, is police on the advice and on the instruction of the acting commissioner coming out in their numbers to intimidate, to suppress, and even to arrest you, the public, for standing for what is right. But tonight, I want to say to you, let us not be troubled. Let us not be weary. Let us continue to stand and stand in defense of our democracy. You and I, ladies and gentlemen, we are the ones who have to stand together and defend this country so that your children and my children would be able to have a future. Because under Keith Rowley administration, I am saying to you tonight that there is no future for your children. There is no future for your grandchildren. And that is why we must stand and unite and stand together and fight this battle in order to allow democracy to be failed in this country. I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, there is a number of activities that will be coming very soon, and we ask you to stand and stand with us as we fight to defend this country. God bless you. I thank you.
constituency of Caroni East. Tonight, led by the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, the United National Congress continues its fight to save Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight, led by the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, we continue our struggle to stand for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight, wherever you are throughout Trinidad and Tobago, we ask you to join with us, because together you face the same burdens, you face the same dangers, and you face the same harm. Together, you face the same threat from Rowley's PNM. Tonight, we ask you to join with us as we stand up against the wicked, evil, and unaccountable People's National Movement. We ask you to stand with us as we stand against high food prices, high fuel prices, and discrimination. Tonight, brothers and sisters, we are joined by a very powerful lineup of speakers. Next to me is my co-host, Kamala Pagu, who is an activist from Caroni East, but more importantly, she has a bachelor's in education. She is currently a law student. She's a writer for the UNC checklist, and also she's very passionate about humanitarian work. Let us welcome Kamala Pagu to the platform tonight.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. All protocols observed. At this point in time, I would like to bring to the podium Alderman Vinush Sajiwan Maraj, a proud son of the soil in St Helena, a former party organizer of the United National Congress. Mr. Sajiwan Maraj has also served in the Senate and is currently an alderman of the Couva Tabaquite Talparo Regional Corporation. We'd like to invite Mr. Sajiwan Maraj for a prayer.
Thank you, Sister Kamala. We all stand for the prayer. Sitaram, good evening, UNC family. As we pray to the one God called by many names. Om Budubua Swaha Tat Savitura Varenyam Badabo Devasya Dimahi Dioyana Prachodaya. Tumeva Mata Chapita Tumeva Tumeva Bandhu Chasaka Tumeva Tumeva Vidya Dravinang Tumeva Tumeva Sarva Mama Deva. Samasta Loka Sukino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Vinush Sajiwan Maraj. Brothers and sisters, we are here with you tonight. The United National Congress is here with you once again. This forms one of the many meetings that we continue to have with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because tonight we continue to say that enough is enough. 7 years ago, in 2015, good governance and democracy died in this country. 7 years ago, suffering, hardship, and the worst government that this country has ever seen took office. Tonight, we say enough is enough. Tonight, we join with the people of Trinidad and Tobago to speak out for your needs. 7 years ago, they told you that they would give you jobs and prosperity. Now they are asking you to increase the retirement age. 7 years ago, they promised you safety. Today, it is murder and bloodshed every single day. Brothers and sisters, we in the UNC will not stand for it. Together with activists, we will speak out. The next activist has been a member of this party from inception. He has served in the trenches with us. He has served at every single level. He has been committed to the community and committed to many charity groups. Let us welcome Mr. Ramnath Gopichan.
My brothers and sisters, how are you this afternoon? Yeah. Great, great, great. We say enough is enough. What do we say?
Enough is enough.
I'm not hearing you, and I want to hear your voice this afternoon. Enough. Because we say enough is enough. Let me hear you. What do we say? Enough is enough. I'm here to talk about a topic that is engaging a lot of attention. A lot of attention. And what is that topic? It's school violence. And you know what is more hurtful or frightening? It's not only boys you are seeing fighting, you are seeing girls fighting, left, right, and center. And you know the funny thing about it? It's like we accepting it. It's like we accepting it because it's a daily thing. And you would hear me repeating myself. Should we say enough is enough? We say no. That is something we have to think about. It's my children, it's your children, it's our grandchildren we are talking about. Firstly, I would like to thank my MP, one of the most easygoing MP I've ever worked with. I'm saying that because I'm a community worker. And when this program was being planned, he said, "Son, you are a community worker. Let's hear your perspective from a community worker point of view. How should we deal with school violence?" MP, I thank you very much for giving me this privilege and this space and approximately 5 minutes to share my humble experience. You see, people fight for many things. Adults fight for many things: land, house, motor car, money, you name it. But when we see children fighting, it's something else we talk about. It's something else to think about, man. And when we hear politicians saying it's jail for them, it's suspension for them, do you think that is the right atmosphere for children? I'm talking this afternoon, but when we sit down and analyze it, is that the right environment for children? We say no. What do we do? Or what should we do? You see, when you give your child $10 or $15, $50, you give your child spending power. Do you know that? You give your child spending power. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when your child come home with $50, $75, and you do absolutely nothing. As a parent, we do nothing. Could your child be a bully? Could your child be a badger? And it goes on. This is where it starts. It starts from the child. It starts from a youth. As parents, when we see these things happening to our children, they are bringing home what they're not supposed to bring home. We have to take stock. We have to take stock. Something is happening. I'm standing on this platform and I'm telling you, politicians alone can't do it. Police alone can't do it. Parliament can't do it. Poor teachers. It's not easy being a teacher in today's society. To deliver people of integrity and honesty, each nation needs community workers. The work of community leaders is being done voluntarily, freely, out of love and care for the nation. That is the reason I'm standing here tonight. You see, we are concerned of what is taking place in society. We are very concerned. And when this meeting was being planned a week ago, community or children violence in school is a major topic that which should be dealt with, and dealt with honestly, with a children's point of view, how they feel, how they should feel, what we as adults should do. And the strange thing is, PNM don't know what to do. Does that sound familiar to you? PNM simply do not know what to do. And talking from my personal experience, you see, I'm saying this because I belong to the Hindu Prachar Kendra. We started what we call HVC, Heritage Vacation Camp. And what do? It is difficult to get children in the afternoon. It is even more difficult to get children on weekends. or what we do when school closed, when that August vacation holiday come, July, August, we get children or we send out invites. If you know any child or any children anywhere, bring them to the Kendra as young as 4 years old. That's right, 4 years. And what do? Instill some scars, instill values, instill discipline. And that will run, actually it's a Ramlila course. And that will run from July, August, September, October until the Ramlila. And every weekend we have these children. Every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, plus the 2 months, July, August. So this is what from a social worker or a community worker, this is what we have to get our children involved in. Get them involved in something that 10 years from now, once you deal with these children now, 10 years from now, you have no problem with these children. Why? Because you instill discipline, you instill value, you instill integrity. So I'm standing here tonight, and UNC, my brothers and sisters of UNC, those in charge, they are concerned of what is happening in school today. They are very, 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 very concerned. You see, we're supposed to stand for something good, or we fall for nothing. All right? And imagine your prime minister will say, your children are they are behaving like hyenas. Is that something proper for a prime minister to say? Let me hear your voice this afternoon. Is that something proper for a prime minister to say? And we accept it. Or do you want to choose somebody like a former prime minister? I always say, Auntie Kamala, when you have a baby, you get $500 to start with. Let's give her a round of applause for that. My brothers and sisters, the choice is yours this afternoon. You have a prime minister who will say your children are behaving like hyenas, or you have a former prime minister who will show love, encouragement, and to start you off with your child, she gave you $500 a month. I thank you very much. Enjoy your afternoon.
Just a taste of what's to come. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on our next speaker. She is a retired teacher and mental health professional who holds a BSc in psychology with a minor in human resource management. She also holds a BA in English and French. A mother of 2 boys. She's a resident of the Lalu Trees. She's also passionate about empowerment and of community work and sustainability for persons within the community. I present to you Miss Vanessa Truni.
Good afternoon, good evening. The Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, SC, Political Leader of the UNC, Dr. Richard Citron, MP for Carney East, Councillor for Las Lomas, San Rafael, Mrs. Balmati Gosain, my councillor for Longdenville, Talparo, Ryan Rampasad, other MPs, senators, members of the local government fraternity, and all viewers and listeners, a special good night to you all. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, I come before you today as a representative of my community, Lalu Trace Extension, Chinchin Road, Canupia. We are separated from Lalu Trace North by a bridge under Councillor Gosain from Lalu Trace. She represents the south section. She represents north, and Councillor Ryan Rampasad represents the south section of the bridge. Last year, 18th August 2021, this bridge collapsed due to heavy rainfalls, leaving a 5-foot precipice or drop in its place. It is now impossible to cross this bridge without risking life and limb. I want you to imagine having an elderly person in your family who needs medical attention and they cannot access such services on time because no ambulance will pass in this area. They could lose their life. Imagine a family member in this situation, especially in this pandemic, who needs medical attention. School children have difficulty now. As school has reopened, no buses want to pass in that area. Our children's education are at risk. Lives are at risk. And the government is neglecting us. Why? How come in these kinds of communities we do not see any action being taken to address the dilapidated roadways and the bridges that are collapsing around us? We have been reaching out for assistance for more than a year now, and our pleas have been neglected. Are any of you all happy with this present governance? Are you all satisfied with what is happening in this country?
No.
Do you all really think that everyone is being treated fairly?
No.
Well, let your vote count if that is the case, because we know that in certain parts of the country, if there's a single pothole, immediately it will be fixed. But in other parts of the country, we seem to be invisible. And you all know which parts of the country I'm referring to. Mainly rural areas like Lalu Trace community. Are we second-class citizens? How come our pleas are going unheeded, neglected, and our cries for help are being ignored? Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, the area where I live services approximately 200 residents and 50 agricultural laborers who need this bridge for their daily commute. They are putting food on the table, these agricultural men, and they now have to struggle to get to the main road. And with the rising gas prices, it is even more difficult because what would have been a 1-minute commute is now taking us at least 30 minutes because we have to pass through a long roadway which is in terrible condition, mashing up our cars and vehicles, and we do not get compensation for any of this from the government. The interesting thing is that appeals have been made repeatedly. Our councillors, our MPs are doing everything in their power to assist us. They have helped us to organize petitions and protests and marches, and they have given hampers to those in need, but it's not enough because we need the funds to fix the bridge, and that is not forthcoming. Why aren't we getting the funds to do basic repairs in this country? Where is that money going? What is it being used for? Yes. So what I want to tell you is that our lives are at risk in this country. We have done everything in our power to get the attention of the government, and it is clear that they are doing nothing. They are neglecting our pleas. And if anything should happen to a resident inside my community, the government will have blood on their hands. That is all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. And brothers and sisters of Caroni East, I want you to know that today is also Vanessa's birthday. And the mere fact that Vanessa is here on her birthday, it shows you the struggle we are facing in this country. When someone on their birthday can come out and stand for their country and stand for their community. Brothers and sisters of Caroni East, people throughout Trinidad and Tobago joining us tonight. We welcome you once more to TT Speaks in Caroni East. Tonight we continue to stand for you. Led by the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, tonight we continue to defend you. Because you see, brothers and sisters, we have a government that has lost all of its usefulness. We have a government that is bankrupt of ideas. Imagine you have a national security minister that does not know it is his duty to protect you. You have a minister of works and transport who admits that he cannot repair your roads. You have a minister of finance who has not had a single year of growth. Brothers and sisters, you have a government that is a waste of time. And together from Caroni East, Caroni Central, Couva North, Couva South, East, West, throughout Trinidad and Tobago, we must continue to stand up and we must continue to remove them, brothers and sisters. Your next speaker, as you can see behind me, we have a battery of UNC soldiers who fight for you night and day. But this gentleman has been a real veteran for the United National Congress. He has been a real veteran for the people of Couva and the Couva Tabaki Talparo Corporation. Let us welcome Councillor Ramchand Rajbal to address you tonight, the veteran, the Lion of Couva.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, people of St Helena. The Honorable Member of Parliament, Dr. Richard Sicharan, a dynamic MP. Ladies and gentlemen, I have heard this gentleman on several interviews on the national airwaves, and he is up to the point, a man who knows the issues and are rightfully representing this UNC government as the shadow Minister of Health. Let's put our hands together and give him a lusty round of applause for his contribution. Chairman of the Couva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation, our esteemed Henry Awang, and other councillors. And this constituency is so unique. It has councillors from Tanapuna, Piaco Regional Corporation, the Shagwadas Borough Corporation, and many of my colleagues from the Couva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation is amongst us here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring greetings on behalf of the people of Couva and my electoral district of California, Point Lisas, to let you know that crime, according to the government, there is a decrease in the increase of crime in this country. You can hear, look, I don't want to use the word here tonight, a lot of foolishness. They run out of answers, ladies and gentlemen. Crime has taken over this country, and there is no measure of it getting better under this present regime. My brothers and sisters, there were many people, hearts were bleeding when they talk about the increase of the gas prices. And up to the very sad day, people were very hopeful that the government will roll it back. Because you know why? Parents could not afford to send their children to school because of money to travel. Devices they didn't have. Children that lived in spontaneous settlement were denied of an education for 2 years and counting because they never got the devices promised by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. School uniforms they didn't have, so they could not attend school. Over 40% of the children are still at home. Unemployment is still high in this country. Many of the parents are still unemployed and cannot get a job today. And this is what you talk. They're talking about a caring government. Brothers and sisters, I want you to throw your mind back from 2010 and 2015. And when you compare 2010 to 2015 and from 15 to today, you will see that the best government that ever run Trinidad and Tobago is the UNC People's Partnership Government. I have a slogan now, it's not People National Movement again. PNM stands for People Never Matter for this government. My brothers and sisters, just a few minutes, I want to let you know that discrimination and victimization has been the order of the day by this regime, by this wicked, callous PNM government. I just want you to remember again when the fishermen, the 7 fishermen lost their lives 2 years ago in Cali Bay, down in Couva area. The Minister of National Security then is the same Minister of National Security now, who said that he cannot, he's afraid to come down to Couva to give moral support to the parents of these children. And you talk about a Minister of National Security who has all the power and the instrument to have security with him anywhere he goes. So I tell you, once you live in beyond the Caroni Bridge, down to the southern side of this country, is victimization, pressure and hell for people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we're going to put a stop to that, because come next election, and we're going to start from this local government election to send a signal, just as Tobago send the signal. We're going to wipe them, we're going to get rid of them once and for all. Ladies and gentlemen, continue. This is a good meeting. People on the airwaves, you can forget everybody, but do not forget the people, national movement, the suffering they have given to you, my brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Now, I told you we have a power pack lineup, and that is what I meant when I say power pack. So tonight, we are here to enlighten each and every one of you about the neglect that this PNM government is doing to us. And we are seeing it every single day. And I'm sure you would agree with me, this government don't care about us. They don't. We are feeling it every single day. Our next speaker was a public servant, senior public servant, and previously served on the National Executive of the United National Congress. Additionally, he has served as chairman of the Caroni East Executive for over 20 years. Currently serving as an alderman at the Couva Tabakit Talpara Regional Corporation, I bring to the podium Mr. Chandrika Sahadev.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Member of Parliament for Caroni, the Honorable Dr. Rishi Sicharan, other members of Parliament, councillors, and aldermen, distinguished members of the head table, our vast viewing and listening audiences. I am happy for this opportunity to address you this evening, and I will utilize my time to speak on the important matter of the environment. This is a vital issue that the failed PNM government has not addressed throughout its 7 years in national office. Last Friday, as you may know, the world observed Earth Day, and there was not a single word from the Rowley's administration, not a single word. There was no effort at tree planting, beautification, or national cleanup. While climate is threatening small island states, our government couldn't care less about our environment. We are facing coastal erosion at a frightening rate. Our biodiversity and ecosystem are being affected tremendously. But our government remains silent and inactive. I speak as someone who 4 years ago initiated a curbside recycling project and was strongly supported by my colleagues at Couva Tabaki Talpo Corporation. Presently, the University of the West Indies and Swimcol are partnered with the CTTRC, Couva Tabaki Talpo Regional Corporation, to initiate a composting project where household biodegradables will be turned into compost and utilized as fertilizers for our plants. My brothers and sisters, it is time that all corporations and districts across Trinidad and Tobago get involved in recycling and composting. This will reduce the amount of waste going to our landfills, and concerned that our landfills are already over 90% filled. This will surely be most beneficial to us. It is long overdue that the government pay attention to the state of our environment. It is important to note that the government has not identified with the international soil campaign that is being promoted by our own Marshall Montano and the world-renowned Sadhguru. Other Caribbean countries welcome them to discuss this crusade, but not the PNM government in Trinidad and Tobago. On another point, ladies and gentlemen, today I call on the authorities to make the Green Fund more accessible to the people of Trinidad and Tobago who are promoting environmental and agricultural projects. The Green Fund is worth billions of dollars, not millions, billions. I ask that the Green Fund be explained to NGO and other organizations so that they could access it for their environmental projects. The fund could be used for reforestation, conservation, public education, and other environmental purposes. The fund is of no use to our country if we do not put it to proper, urgent use. I'll repeat this. The fund is of no use to our country if we don't put it to proper and urgent use. I also call for the passage of the beverage container bill, brothers and sisters. Millions, yes, millions of cans and bottles of beverage is deposited every month. To add to this, the poor performance of WASA also created a huge bottled water industry. Most of these containers are made with non-biodegradable material. They end up in landfills, in drains and roads, savannas, schoolyards, parks. They eventually in watercourses. I have one more minute again. This causes floods. They ruin our agricultural crops, they destroy the environment, and they make the place messy and unsanitary. Countries all over the world are dealing with this matter, but with the urgency that it deserves. But again, not this government, not this PNM government, they just don't care. The beverage container bill would create a refund system for containers and thus reduce the effect of disposal on the environment. This country has been talking about this bill for too long. Other countries have passed similar laws. It is time to take action. In the US, Canada, and other countries like Germany, similar legislation has led to reduction of up to 80% of containers being discarded in public. We in Trinidad and Tobago urgently need a system for collection and proper disposal of beverage containers. People must be given an incentive to recycle their beverage containers. We need an effective and structured process. Okay, I'll see how much I can leave out here. I would like to humbly recommend that we all raise our voices on this issue. You see, when there are heavy rains, it is we, the ordinary people, who suffer from horrible floods. Just this week gone, one of our councils were reminding me of this, so I put it in this speech tonight, caused by discarded bottles and plastics. The flood wipe out crops, ruin our school children's books, destroy our appliances, and devastate our communities. It is in our interest to demand action on the environment. This incompetent PNM government must stop lip service and must take decisive actions. We must insist that they do so. My brothers and sisters, I thank you for for this opportunity to discuss this essential matter with you, and hope I get 2 minutes extra next time. I ask you to stay strong, to continue to spread the message of our great party, the United National Congress. We will soon return to national office to rescue our beloved country. I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chandrika. And MPC Charan has just messaged all of us to say that you will be given 5 minutes extra in the next meeting. So, brothers and sisters, when you have a veteran like Chandrika standing up tonight, actually, you know things are serious. And as we meet here tonight, you see the numbers are growing. We are in a pandemic, but the numbers are growing because people are fed up of Keith Rowley. People are fed up of the neglect. People are fed up of the discrimination. You see, under Keith Rowley, Trinidad and Tobago has become a laughing stock in CARICOM. You see, when our neighbors say that Trinidad and Tobago is falling apart, they want to get vexed. But when you could abandon a refinery that was perfect, you know our country is falling apart. When you could abandon 4 divers in a pipeline, 4 of your own sons, you know our country is falling apart. When you as a government could fail to protect women year after year, you know our country is falling apart. When you as a government could cut gate, could cut scholarships, you know our country is falling apart. That is why tonight, led by Kamla Prasad Bisesa, wherever you are in Trinidad and Tobago, understand that the UNC cares and the UNC is fighting for you. Our next speaker is a fighter. He has been a servant of this party for many years in the central region. Last year, he swept the polls in the by-election in Chaguanas. Let us welcome your councillor Councillor Richard Sukdeo.
Honorable political leader, UNC colleagues and officials who are looking on, Honorable Member of Parliament Richard Sicharan, Chairman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I just want to say that the Member of Parliament for Karen East is a man, a principled man, who is fighting for his country. All I can say now is he's the Minister of Health in waiting. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a government that runs our country. And it is run by the People's National Movement. But what I would want to say is that PNM stands for People Never, People Negative Movement. Not my friend, People Never Matters. I'm saying it's People's Negative Movement. Constitutionally, we have a model of government. It's supposed to be a democracy. But we have a leader who operates as an autocrat, wielding power, and he takes upon on his own. And this has led to something nearly as a dictatorial state, where his friends and a small clique controls our treasury. What they have further done is that in Parliament, where laws are to be made, and sometimes they want to make laws to suit themselves, what they have done is they have whittled down the majority to a simple majority, from a 3/5 to a simple majority, to pass laws so that they can do what they want. Remember Prime Minister Rowley when he went to Australia and purchased a boat by himself. That is dictatorship, not following the laws of the country. This government continues to act with measures that affects our population in a negative aspect. Hence the reason I'm saying a negative movement. Ladies and gentlemen, we would have just had a last increase in fuel price. 4 times fuel price was increased. The last time they are saying it increased by $1. But we in Trinidad know we don't operate with liters and so on. we say a gallon. Prices really went up by $5 a gallon. That is the reality of it. And that is how it affected us. That is how it is negatively affecting each and every person here. Because each and every person use fuel for transportation. And what this has done, ladies and gentlemen, it has caused the rippling effects. It has caused devastating financial burden upon us citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. If the government was managing the economy better, the subsidy would not have to be taken away. Look at Barbados, look at Guyana. All over the place, they have added subsidies for their people in order for the people not to suffer. Hence, I'm saying, instead of putting actions for going forward, the PNM is people's negative movements. We now have to park our cars. We have to carpool. We have to do less traveling. They are taking away our little luxury and our safety aspect by removing the subsidy. I just want to touch quickly on a very touching issue in my district of Cunupia. Ladies and gentlemen, our school children are the future generation. They are the ones of tomorrow to minister, to rule over us. What we have in a school right now, in a community center in Jerningham, they have taken a school from Londonville for the past 5 years, and they have placed it in the Jerningham Government Community Center. First, they wanted it for, I think, was a period of 1 term. It has now reached a period of 5 years, and when now they have a school population of about 300 pupils there. And I want to tell you something. If you visit Jerningham Community Center, you would know it is not fit for a school. The place there, it is unsecure. It is not fitted with equipment, with furniture. The protocol there is bad. Now we are in a stage of pandemic, and you know, there's no safety aspect there. Our school children are suffering because of this. Imagine you take students from Londonville and you have placed them in Jerningham. What about the distance inconvenience, the time, the extra passage to bring those children to school? I want to tell you something. The Ministry of Education had one of the highest budget allocation in the last budget of $5,119 million. And you want to tell me, ladies and gentlemen, they can't fix a school for the future of our nation? But they could spend money on a taste of carnival. What did we get for that? People's negative movement. Instead of we going forward, the PNM is taking us backward. And just on community center, I would want to say, a friend told me in St. Augustine, no board was appointed. Since 2017, the board of management, it expired. The PNM didn't see it fit to appoint a new board there. Community centers are a place where the unemployed, the youths, the single mothers, where they give courses, where it is youth for the community, especially in a time of unemployment. And this is what they are doing. They are negative in their thinking. They do not think proactively. They do not think for the benefit of the citizens. Yet you can see monies wasted and frittered away all over the place. Community center, it is something that, you know, with so much unemployment in the place, where are the sewing courses? Where are the cooking courses? What's going to be done? The St. Augustine Community Center is being neglected and is being dilapidated at this moment. And the government will not see it fit to spend some money to upgrade it so that the people and the citizens of the community can upgrade themselves. That is people's negative movement. That is what PNM stands for. I know my time is running out, but I just want to touch on one thing again. In my electoral district of Cunupia, a bridge collapsed, a 2-lane bridge. We begged the ministry, we pleaded with them from so many different, the member of parliament, the councillors, so many of us pleaded for a 2-way bridge to put a bridge there to replace that bridge that collapsed. You know what they did? And I mean, we are thankful for it. At least it's something. They put a Bailey bridge, a single lane. At the time of the installation of the bridge, we told them, we understood the volume of traffic. It was a pandemic time, so the traffic volume was slow. So the traffic was at a minimum. We explained to them, listen, when things get back to normal and everything, the traffic is so heavy on that road. You know, people have been calling me, Burgesses, Radians. A woman called me and she said, Councillor, what is it all you're doing? I've been standing and sitting in my car for 30 minutes because there's not even a traffic light on that Bailey Bridge. And no one is giving each other a chance. What it is causing frustration, impatience, children are going to school late, parents are being frustrated, it is even causing road rage. What is this government doing? A simple thing, that they cannot put financing for a traffic light system, one stop, one go, so that we can have flowing traffic on either direction. Ladies and gentlemen, that is people's negative movement. The per capita income at the Chaguanas Borough Corporation is 1/5 of what is happening in Arima and Point Fortin. When you work it out, we see that we are getting so much less money there. I would want to call it, as being touted, it is geographical discrimination. Why is it cannot be fair across the board? Why can't we have the resources in County Caroni and Chaguanas Borough Corporation as I have in Arima, Point Fortin, Port Esprit, and what? Are we not people? Are we not citizens? Are we second class? Maybe that is how they are seeing us. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, we got to make it our effort and remove this wicked, vindictive People's National Government and put a government in place under the leadership of our honorable, esteemed political leader and the best Prime Minister Trinidad and Tobago has ever seen, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa. That is what we need. We do not need people, as the Master Samuel would say, Minister of National Security, my job is not to protect you. No, we need people who can stand up to the job, who can do the job for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, there is much more to say, but another time. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sukhdev. And we don't have enough time for our speakers. At this point in time, I want to acknowledge the presence of our chairman of the NATEX, Mr. Peter Kanhai, PRO, Dr. Kirk Mehu, councillors of the Kuva Tabaki Tapara Regional Corporation, who was already seated in our audience from the beginning. At this point in time, Mr. Sukhdev mentioned a point. He talked about our children, and they are the future. And I'm sure if our leader, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, was in government, our children would have already gotten their schools, and they would have been happy, and they would have been running around in all those beautiful playgrounds that she created for our children. So, in our next general election, I am sure, and you are sure, that the sun will rise again. Our next speaker is a hard worker. She is always in the trenches. A proud mother. She's a counselor for the Las Lomas San Rafael district. Without further ado, I present to you Ms. Balmati Gosain.
Senator Jerlene John, MP Richard Sicharan, Chairman Henry Awang, my fellow councillor colleagues, aldermen, brothers and sisters, good evening. When I offered myself for service and was endorsed by the residents of Las Lomas San Rafael in 2016 and 2019, I expressed what I considered the E factor. That is, excited, eager, and enthusiastic to make significant local government changes and to create meaningful and lasting improvement to my community. But ladies and gentlemen, what I soon realized is that the entire system is designed to frustrate local government representatives, since local government bodies are at the mercy of central government for resources. Central government dictates the success and or failure of municipal bodies. Over the past few years, since the PNM administration came to power, namely 2015, they have deliberately set about the destruction of local government bodies, despite their fancy talk about local government reform and empowering councillors. The Minister of Finance, in the debate of the proposed local government reform bill, admonished the opposition for its position and made it out as if the generation of property tax would solve the problem of underfunding in the corporation. But this fly-in-the-sky approach, even if you implement that, it will take approximately 3 to 5 years to operationalize. You can't go and just say, tomorrow we're going to collect tax, you pay 500, you pay 10,000. Cannot work like that. It will take time. So in the meantime, you let the horse starve. Let the worst continue, and this is really the PNM concept of good governance. I will now elucidate to the general public and those residents of my beloved Las Lomas San Rafael what is the reality and impact of limited funding within our electoral district. These are the allocations under the fiscal year 2021-2022 developmental program, bearing in mind that this is designed to address new and novel infrastructural development within the whole electoral district. Roads and bridges, $3.5 million to be shared among 14 electoral districts at the Cuba-Tabaqui-Talparo Regional Corporation. When you divide that, you get $250,000. This $250,000 is insufficient to construct any local government road or bridges, and they are really in badly need of repairs. Can this sum of $250,000 replace the wooden bridge at Esperanza Trace Las Lomas? Can the sum of $250,000 fix that broken bridge at Lalu Trace that our sister spoke of earlier today? Can the sum of $250,000 rehabilitate the bad roads in my electoral district? For example, Boykato Road. We all know the condition of Boykato Road. Ramgoli Trace, Ramlal Trace, Balexis Street, Singh Avenue, Algu Trace, Wall Street, and hundreds of others within my electoral district in our pothole country. And these bad roads affect all of us, as we often have to go to the mechanic shop, buy parts to fix our vehicles, while many of us are still struggling to put food on the table. We have to pay bills, we have to send our kids to school, we have to buy medicine and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a government that simply does not care about us. They only care about themselves, their friends, and their financiers. I have never known anyone stronger than my political leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa. So let us stand with her and bring change to our country. It is time to vote them out. Let us call election now. I thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, Balmati. And brothers and sisters of Caroni East, she is very correct. The time to vote them out is now. The time to move them is now. Brothers and sisters, in a few days, your great party will celebrate 33 years. Your great party will celebrate 33 years of being the only political party in this country that ensures development for every creed, every race, and every single citizen. Brothers and sisters, you all have stuck with the UNC for decades. You have stuck with the UNC through thick and thin. Today, the United National Congress is at its strongest. You have never seen the UNC as a political party fight so hard for the rights of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because today, we face the worst government that this country has seen. But under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the UNC has stood strong with you. You have seen the UNC have a Monday night virtual report. The UNC has its TT Speaks, its Sunday press conferences, its People's Revolution. Last week it was the UNC at every single interchange protesting the fuel increase because the UNC cares for you. But more than that, Kamla Prasad Bisesa cares for you. Years before, the UNC was not strong as this. But there are those Mahani Makarams who will tell you that Kamla must go. There are those who will tell you that the UNC is not strong because they are jealous that they are not leading the UNC. They are jealous that they cannot stand strong as Kamla Prasad Bisesa. But tonight we tell you, come where you want, come from where you want, we will fight you and we will stand with Kamla Prasad Bisesa to defend the UNC. Brothers and sisters, the next speaker is a veteran in local government. He is a graduate of Queen's Royal College. He is currently pursuing his executive master's degree in sports management. This is his third term as the councillor for Londonville Talparo. He is also the vice chairman of the Cuba-Tabaqui-Talparo Regional Corporation. He is what I call my chairman of my constituency in La Joqueta Talparo. Let us welcome Councillor Ryan Rampersad.
Thank you very much, my good friend Nicholas Morris, very hard-working guy. Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Senior Counsel, political leader of the United National Congress. Our host, Member of Parliament, MP for Caroni East, the hard-working Dr. Rishi Sicharan, whom I really enjoy working with. Thank you for including me in this program here this afternoon. Other MPs, senators, councillors, and aldermen, the Caroni East constituency executive, a very hard-working bunch of people, all our UNC family, and I must say a special good night to a very special lady who came in all the way from Canada to be with us. She's in the audience, Karina Beechan. Let's give her a round of applause for joining us, please. And she's a very hard worker all day, all night. She's always on the social media. My UNC family, how we feeling? I feel like we're ready for a general election. What do you think? Well, I'll tell you something. Elections have consequences. Trinidad and Tobago, you made the biggest mistake of your life by placing the most arrogant and incompetent man in charge of our beautiful country back in September 2015. For 5 years prior to that, that is from 2010 to 2015, we had a happier country. We had a safer country. We had a country where people could have afforded to buy food for themselves and their families. They could afford to buy fuel for their vehicles. They could pay their bills and still save a little something. It broke my heart when just yesterday, a man from Las Lomas called me and asked me for a food card because it is very difficult for him to make ends meet. He even went on to tell me that he decided to stop going to church on a Sunday because he simply cannot afford the increase in his fuel bill. So to Mr. Imbert, Minister Imbert, and to Dr. Rowley, I want you all to digest that. A family has to stop going to church because of you all, you uncaring P&M government. Between 2010 and 2015, we had a leader who genuinely cared about everyone, and I mean every creed and race. Back then, whether you were rich or poor, when you enter Form 1, you were presented with a laptop computer. This enables students to do their work both at home and at school. And if they didn't have Wi-Fi at home, that was still not a problem, because our caring government back then, between 2010 and 2015, equipped various community centers across the country with powerful internet systems. That is the PALS system, Public Access Learning Systems. And these students could access it in the various villages. I clearly remember driving through San Rafael and Talparo and looking at many students on the afternoons, and obviously they did not have internet in their homes and they would be doing their research and so on. I felt really happy because we completed the entire circle by not just providing them with devices, but giving them internet also in the communities back then. As we are on education, school reopened last week in full, and all students are back out. Don't think for a minute that there is no longer the need for laptops and other devices. These students, all of them, every one of them, ought to have some form of device to continue their work properly at home, to do their research and so on. Additionally, as we are on education, have you all seen the amount of fights taking place recently in schools? I mean some really, really violent fights. Imagine the Minister of Education is speaking about placing police officers in schools to curb the violence. Whilst I understand that something must be done and done so urgently, when you arrive at this desperate stage, it tells me that you have failed the children of this country and you ought to be removed from office. Parents are now petrified about sending their children to school. Just this morning, I heard a popular talk show host say that whilst Rome burns, the Prime Minister flies out, and he was speaking about the present situation with violence at schools. And the talk show host stated that the Prime Minister should have led from the front, touched down at those schools and dealt with those problems at the schools. Well, I want to tell that talk show host, no. Dr. Rowley is the last man who could correct any of those students. A former Prime Minister from his same party stood in Parliament and referred to him as a raging bull. Most of us remember the now popular lines. The minute you oppose my good friend, he gets very, very angry. And if you oppose him strongly, he becomes a raging bull. But there is some fine print after that that may just be as equally or even more important, where Patrick Manning goes on to say, Mr. Speaker, we do not tolerate bullying in the secondary school system, and we're not tolerating bullying in the cabinet. And if the member for Digo Martin West wishes a cabinet in which bullying is the order of the day, then he's going to have to form that cabinet himself. Well, Trinidad and Tobago, this is where we are at, unfortunately. We need to keep focused. We need to keep working, keep together, and keep going. I close by reminding you of Harriet Tubman's advice. If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If there's shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. Let's continue the fight and bring the UNC back into power. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ryan Rampersad. And at this point in time, we want to acknowledge the presence of MP for St. Augustine, Ms. Khadija Amin. I'd like to also invite Senator Jolene John to the stage. So, let me ask you a question. Do you all really want that raging bull to continue to dictate our lives? I'm not hearing you all. No. All right. So our next speaker tonight is highly regarded in his community, a co-founder of the Ravin Saab Football League. This league has been in existence for over 23 years. This is a testament to Councillor Lezama's passion for improvement in his community. I'm privileged to welcome to the podium Kaparo Mamural Councillor John Lezama.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Political Leader Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Deputy Political Leader Senator Jolene John, Vice Chairman of the UNC, MP Khadija Amin, MP for Caroni Central, Caroni East, Dr. Richard Sicharad, fellow councillors, aldermen, and Chairman of the Kuva-Tabaki Talpara Regional Corporation, fellow councillors, aldermen of the City TRC, Chaguanas Borough Corporation, and Tunapuna Corporation, all party executives, and UNC family. Good night. I made a promise to myself that whenever I get on a podium like this again, I will take the opportunity to address you, and I would touch on 4 issues on every occasion which affect the daily lives of the burgesses of Kaparo Mamural. Not only is there only 4 issues, because if I have to address all, it will take me whole night. Now you're here in Kaparo Mamural and you're asking you are in Eco Park in St Helena. But part of Kaparo Mamural electoral district fall in Caroni East. Hence, you're here in Kaparo Mamural tonight. You see, brothers and sisters, these problems didn't start yesterday. It started when a government who was elected 7 years ago neglected their responsibilities to address these issues when it was small. Today they are major issues. And we keep asking ourselves why it become major. It become major because of the incompetent government. And we'll keep having this once we keep voting for them. When regional corporations are not funded by central government, you, the burgesses, suffer, and you suffer dearly. You all have heard from my colleagues, letting you all know what we have faced on a daily basis as councillors in the City TRC. It is no different with me as a councillor. Tonight, I would be brief because I only have 5 minutes. I cannot do like Chandrika and ask for another 5, but I have to use my 5. Tonight, because of only 5 minutes I have, however, I would like to address 2 issues: landslip and bridges in the Kaparo Mamural area. Although all other councillors suffer in the same places like Councillor Ryan Rampersad and Balmati Gosain, but I just want to touch on 2 because it affects severely on the burgesses of Kaparo Mamural. There are 5 landslips on Fletcher Road within a half-mile radius. There are major landslip on Car Road in Caparo, Chickland Road in Caparo, Mamural. Well, Mamural have too numerous to mention. Grand Couva, and even along the Caparo Valley Brasso Road. Look, if I have to call out and identify all these landslips, it might take me whole night. So I had to cut short. Caparo Mamural. Instead of we say the district of Caparo Mamural, we should say the electoral district of landslips. And I had a councillor colleague of mine, may God rest his soul, that he used to call Landslip City. His knees became sore begging to fix landslip. Well, I don't think I have knees anymore. Numerous visits, site visits, were made to these landslips. To this day, nothing, absolutely nothing has materialized. And we keep begging. Only yesterday, along with the assistance of the residents of Fletcher Road and the CTTRC equipment, we were able to do some temporary backfilling to one of these landslips. You see, it have children from Ravinsab, which connects with Todd's Road, where children attend Todd's Road RC school. If you have to make the wrongs all through Palmas, it takes you roughly 5 hours. Not 5 hours, but 5 miles away from what is usually a mile away from your home. So we did that with the help of we asked the MP for the area, Mr. Foster Cummins. He made numerous visits with numerous engineers. Up to this day, we see nothing. And we keep asking, when would this thing? Do this government really care about these children in this area? Probably Mr. Imbut will call them Dwen too. But we cannot be living in this sort of situation. Every day we keep begging. It's time we had to stop begging. Those who traverse the Caparo Valley Brasso Road, you will notice the new handrails. The handrails in Caparo Valley Brasso Road is bamboo and caution tape. That is where we reach to. This is where we thought we were in the 21st century, but apparently we're back in the 19th century, where bamboo was already there to do everything. This is what you call government for the people. But the old people say, time longer than twine. It have a time for them. Apparently, councillors and the corporations appear to be the new social development ministry. It has become the norm now that families seek the assistance of councillors, the corporation, for a daily meal, for uniform for the children, for school books. How can a councillor on this meager salary, where we have burgesses in the thousand, some in my area alone there is over 10,000 burgesses, where do you get in that money from $4,300 to give people to survive? That is what we are faced to. So what are the social development ministry doing? I know, I wish I could talk for an hour, but I know it permit. That time does not permit me. And they don't start watching me already. So, and when you're watching with Kokia, you know what you have to do. You have to wind up. And winding up, I want to leave you with this message. The people of Israel waited for centuries for a Messiah to come out of bondage from Egypt. We, the people in Trinidad, don't have to wait for centuries. We have a Messiah. We have a Messiah in Kamla, Passad, Bisesa, and the UNC. They could take you, this vehicle could take you out of bondage. Enough is enough. Stand up and be counted, people. We are sitting too idle by. PNM would be making noise. You as members of UNC, make noise. Let your feet be heard on the street. Let's have a talk that Kamla and the UNC don't motivate you. But let me ask you, when you sit down in your house and you cannot give anybody, your children food, you can't send them to school, you can't eat tires and you have money to buy gas, that is not motivation? That is not motivation for you to come out there, put fire in your belly and come out? We are too quiet. You know, the other day, our minister asked for a tissue to dry a tear. That is what you want Kamla Prasad Bisasa to do? Take a tissue to wipe a tear and that will motivate you? People, brothers and sisters, the time to rise is now. If we do not rise, we will stay where we are. We need to get this government out and we need to get them out now. I thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And tonight from this platform, we want to offer condolences to local government. You see, when you hear the struggles of the councillors of the UNC, I want to tell you something. Local government, after 2 weeks ago, is now dead because Faris Al-Rari will kill it. Faris Al-Rari is a failure as an Attorney General, and he will be a failure as a Minister of Local Government. You see, brothers and sisters, John was correct, because from Toko to Shagaramas is suffering. From St. Augustine to Separia is suffering. From Mayaro to Maruga is suffering. But brothers and sisters, tonight in Caroni East, we put Keith Rowley on notice. Your time is up. We put Keith Rowley on notice that Kamla Prasad Bisesa is coming back as Prime Minister, because the people of this country will not stand for your lies anymore. You went to Parliament with fake emails. They were a lie. You told us that you were not closing down Petrotrin. That was a lie. You come to talk about spying now. For sure, that is a lie. So tonight we tell you, the UNC will stand up against the People's National Movement. The next speaker is a young fighter for the UNC. He's an educator by profession. Councillor Richard Rampersad is an educator and he educates young people. He's passionate about art and he's keen in developing the creative abilities of young people. He himself has been asked to exhibit his own masterpiece art in the highest form across the country, including the Rotunda of Parliament. That's the talent we have in the UNC. Our work is showcased in the Parliament. Additionally, he serves as the UNC councillor for the electoral district of St. Augustine, South Piarco, St Helena, and has always shown a strong commitment to service, a breath of fresh air, a young dynamic fighter. Welcome, Councillor Richard Rampersad.
Good night. So it's always a humbling experience to come and stand before you in the flesh, now that we would have transcended beyond the COVID restrictions, the lockdowns. I could address you in a physical format. So good night. Honorable political leader of the United National Congress, Ms. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, our Member of Parliament for Caroni East, Dr. Richard Sicharan, other MPs present with us here tonight, aldermen, councillors, senators, members of the NATEX, good night. Tonight I speak to you about the challenges and overcoming challenges. Today I speak to you as your trusted councillor. I speak only to share this journey of transformation and advancement, which is my mission to make my Burgesses and their living experience a better one. The callous and cold treatment meted out to citizens of this country by the PNM makes my tongue twist with bitterness and my eyes sting with stress. This overpowering oppression by the PNM is a burden as heavy as 1,000 giant rocks resting on my soul. And I say these words with a very heavy heart. Can you feel that weight suffocating us all? Can you smell that scent of stagnation? The ineptitude of this PNM is what plagues us all, and paving a way through this dictatorial dirt of the PNM regime is what I have been trying to do, along with my burgesses. Far too long, drainage issues have been draining the life out of the people here in St Helena. I keep my eyes focused on the embankments and the water courses such as the Balata Ravine, the El Carmen Main Drain, and the Caroni River. I know some of you here tonight are still fearful of a repeat of the October 2018 flooding, even on the Friday 30th July 2021, as well as the Monday 16th August 2021 flooding. It has become a matter of great concern since it was only one night of rainfall that resulted in so many persons being affected. Tonight, I am humbly seeking answers from the Drainage Division following 3 questions that I have for them. 1, have the source of flooding been ascertained? Were they able to identify the riverbanks and the embankments that need work to avoid this predicament in the future? Why did this flooding take so long to subside completely? And finally, which waterways need to be treated with? So these are the questions I'm positing for the Drainage Division of the Ministry of Works. Under this PNM incompetent government, we have a historical lack of dedicated programs to clean, clear, and distilled water courses. Now, we know it's not enough to just posit a problem without giving a solution, so I will attempt to do both. So the problem, what is the problem? The historical approach to drain cleaning and clearing has become a mere minimum one, which is an incomplete cleaning of debris from the drain, especially the covered drains. For example, the one along Madras Road and the one along the Caroni South Bank Road. That is the problem. What is the solution? Here's what I am proposing. A dedicated program of drain cleaning and clearing during the dry season with a commitment to remove the majority of slush and debris from all concrete drains, covered and uncovered, and to widen and reshape the edges of earthen drains as far and as wide as possible. This obviously would require additional manpower, additional equipment, and perhaps some small machinery and proper supervision. First, we can start with a drainage audit, where a small team of supervisors can walk the district accompanied by residents who are familiar with the problems, identify and prioritize the remedial actions necessary, and use perhaps a scale of 1 to 3, which would determine the most critical blockages to be cleared. This is something very feasible and possible. It just takes the right vision and the willpower. This triage system, because it's threefold, will help to make the program impacting and manage with a limited resources. Perhaps the program can be capped at 100 interventions in its first instance over a 4-month period, which would take us to 25 projects per month, 1 per day effectively. Flooding is like a cancer that needs to be eradicated, or else its effect can spread like a vine of total annihilation in people's property, and our beloved land drowns in an immense brown river of suffering in which only a boat can navigate through. Let us not forget there are persons who haven't received their compensation from the flood in 2018. To this day, many people suffer from that slaughtering of their prized property. To this day, we know that flood mitigation efforts need to increase if we are to evolve as a country, yet enough is not being done. Another item I wish to highlight is the presence of the giant snails in this community and in many other communities in my electoral district. So this is the problem. We have a giant snail infestation, and this was imported in St Helena several years ago, where they thrive, multiply, and spread out, affecting many areas. St Helena is a rural community, as we all know. Farming and vegetable production is still very popular here. The giant snail decimates vegetable crops in the El Carmen area, to name one particular street, perhaps even the Constantine Road, where I know some of you are from. It is impossible, as we know, to completely eradicate this pest. However, I still think that it could be controlled. So that is the problem. What is the solution? Residents should be encouraged to call and report the presence of giant snails or send WhatsApp messages to specific numbers identifying location. Now, based on that data coming through this medium, there can be liaison with the UTT and other technical resources for professional guidance on how do we treat it and eradicate this crisis. We can arrange periodic meetings, perhaps once a month, in various areas where data suggests a problem exists, to eradicate residents and educate residents rather on low-cost approaches to controlling the pests. You can apply salt, you can throw chloride, bleach, etc. A higher level intervention can take place with the Ministry of Agriculture, informing them of the problem and requesting a programmatic intervention, such as provision of subsidized snail bait. To this day, I'm unsure whether the Ministry of Agriculture and or the Ministry of Health has a robust snail baiting unit. I know at the TPRC we do not have one. I believe roads should not abuse our tires or only offer us arduous journeys. Fortunately, I was able to complete paving in certain parts of my district. However, with the absence of funding, many projects are still outstanding. Tonight, I call on the Prime Minister to consider allocating some of that money which is being used to pay rent for his colleagues in Port of Spain and allocate some of that in local government. It has been over 2 years I've been clamoring for repairs to the manhole covers and pavement along Madras Road. There are several manhole covers that have been damaged and still in need of replacement over 2 years. There are also some short sections of the concrete pavement along the Carney South Bank Road that require repairs to make the pavement more usable in both the eastern and western side. I continue to dream of a district where cars do not slip in deep potholes and a space where silt does not slide into drains and exacerbate flooding. I will continue to use every ounce of my being to serve you with passion and pride, as the satisfaction of my people is what matters most to me. Tonight, I thank you for your support, and I thank you for your cooperation and your appreciation. I received this message and I claim it as my own, and I continue to help in whatever way I can. I believe that the shining light of the UNC in this quagmire of problems can continue to fester as a result of this callous PNM regime will bring healing to our nation. I am doing my part to assist. I continue to make myself available and accessible. I am your counselor, and together we will make our beloved country of Trinidad and Tobago shine again. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Richard Rampersad. And for all those who don't know, we are in his district. So let's hear it again for Councillor Richard Rampersad. Our next speaker is a long-standing soldier of the United National Congress, serving as the councillor in the electoral district of Piparo, San Pedro, Tabaquite for 19 years, serving as the chairman of the CTRC for the past 8 years, a champion for meaningful rural development. Chairman Awang is a pillar of strength in the community and provides excellent leadership in the largest regional corporation in the country. Put your hands together as we bring on Chairman Henry Awang.
The political leader of the United National Congress and leader of the opposition, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisasa, Member of Parliament for Caroni East, the Honorable Dr. Rishi Sicharan, Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, and my sister in politics for the longest while, Sister Khadija Amin, Deputy Political Leader of the United National Congress, Sister Julian John, my councillor colleagues all, and I'm always proud of my Kuba Tabaki Talparo councillors. They are always out here in their numbers. Let's hear it for them. I like to communicate at times through telling stories and so on, and my colleagues will know that. I think is a good way to get my message out. So I want to start by telling you, I grew up in a little village named Lasatau, just off Flanagan Town in central Trinidad. Adjoining another remote village named Brasso Venado. Between these two communities, we would have a population of about 300 or so persons living. Those of my generation grew up without the basic amenities such as electricity, water, community centers, extremely bad roads, lack of employment opportunities, etc. Lots of people in the village look like me, minus the dreadlocks. I always had a keen interest in politics because I realized very early on that politics determines the price of bread, the quality of roads you drive on, the quality of education your children or grandchildren will be given, the opportunity to obtain, your sense of security and family well-being, job opportunities, whether or not you can put a roof over your family's head. But you know what used to happen in the village of Lasatau during the election time? I want to say this very easy. They all would go and vote PNM. Back then, they didn't have none of those amenities and so on, but they used to go and vote PNM. I, as an individual, refused to go and vote, although my elders tried to get me to do so. But why should I? I used to ask myself that question. Were roads bad, no water, no electricity, no community center, no play parks, no recreation grounds, but you're asking me to go and vote for a government like the PNM, who was in power at the time. I subsequently started to get involved in the village by organizing youth groups, then went on to join the village council, and shortly after became its president. One day I decided to pen a letter to then MP for the area, Mr. Nizam Mohammed. Yes, the same Nizam Mohammed of Tabla Head fame. I invited him to the village to hear of all the issues, but with the PNM in power, we did not make much progress. But we persevered until the advent of the People's Partnership in government. With Kamla Persad Bisasa as the Prime Minister, we saw tremendous progress. We got our roads properly well fixed, with white lines too. But due to lack of maintenance by the Ministry of Works now, under Rohan Sinanan, we are having challenges with the same roads. We got box drains for the first time in the village under Prime Minister Kamla Persad Bisasa. We got an activity center where we would keep our community skills training, etc. But the price of all, and I want to give you all a story before I tell you about that one. Back then, through our village councils and so on, we used to write lots of letters to WASA, ministers of public utilities on many occasions for water in the both communities. And if you know these communities, I'm speaking about Brasso Venado and Lasatau, if you spit too hard, it'll fall in the Navet Dam. But the response every time from these officials from WASA and so on, and ministers back then under the PNM, was, it's not feasible. It's not feasible. Remember, the dam right down the road, you know. If you spit hard, it fall in the dam, but it's still not feasible for the 300 plus population there. For a school, there's a government school in the area too. There was a lunch center in the area that supplied lunch to about 9 schools within the county of Caroni at that time, and yet it was not feasible for the then government. You know what? Under Kamla Persad Bisasa and the People's Partnership in government, in 2014, we turned on water in those villages. We turned on water in those villages in 2014. You know what? It wasn't an issue of feasibility. It was an issue of political will to get it done. That was the issue, really. So all they living up in the bush up there, all this UNC and all they from rural constituency of Tabakit, all they shouldn't have water. That's the philosophy and thinking of the PNM. I say all of this to let you know that this thing is not about race, it is not about color, it is not about creed, it's about a better way of life for us all and for the generations to come. That's why under the UNC, back then, Mr. Pandey initiated the Heritage Stabilization Fund. Somebody tell me it was the Interim Revenue Stabilization Fund, and then when Manning came in 2007, he changed it to the Heritage Stabilization Fund. But whatever fund it was called, it was the same stabilization fund that was initiated under UNC government. Under UNC government. And now I heard my leader recently speaking on the Monday Night Forum. They drained it. They drained it. The PNM, this Rowley PNM. So my brothers and sisters, the UNC was born from struggle for small man and woman, always for and on behalf of the lesser fortunate amongst us. That's why I will always remain a UNC. And as they call him in my community, look the UNC Rastaman. I always say a government and a leader should be judged by a social conscience. And when you compare the social conscience of who we have now as a prime minister to the one we had before under the People's Partnership government, the Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessar, the best prime minister we ever had, you're comparing chalk and cheese. You're comparing chalk and cheese. I want to talk a little bit about recreation grounds because something happened a couple of weeks ago that I want to talk a minute about it and share. When you have 7 local government practitioners on one platform, you may run the risk of duplicating it, so please forgive me. I noted recently that a big name news anchor for one of the main national television stations came down to Las Lomas to do a social media live broadcast on a recreation grounds there. And nothing is wrong with that. But I want to stand in defense of the council for the area, the hard-working Balmati Gosain, a woman who posts her contact number on Facebook for a person needing a meal to call her. What you want more from a councillor like that? You know, she posts on her Facebook page, people who need a meal, call me on this number. If you genuinely need a meal, I remember that and I noted that. That is a person with a social conscience. But getting back to the issue of the recreation grounds, we sympathize with the players of the club and so on who had to give up their home game because the ground was not his best. But my brothers and sisters, let me tell you this. When the national budget was read in the month of October 2021, the government had no intentions of reopening contact sports or nothing. So nothing was placed in the budget for the Cuba Tabaqui Talpa Regional Corporation to upgrade recreation grounds. And you all will know those grounds were down for 2 years because of the COVID restrictions. But lo and behold, the Prime Minister announced that sports is back. Numerous clubs and teams started calling for their grounds to be prepared for the season. Just imagine you have no funding to rent or lease equipment, to purchase the required loam soil, or to transport the soil to even repair the equipment to do so, to do the work. And for those who are not aware, the Cuba Tabaqui Talpa Regional Corporation has 104 recreation grounds under its control. I wrote to former Minister of Rural Development and Local Government Senator Kazim Hussain for assistance from the ministry to have these recreation grounds prepared. But to this date, I have no response, none whatsoever from either the former minister or the new minister, Faris Al-Rawi. None whatsoever. And this is the letter here. I have a copy of the letter that I wrote it down. And let me just say this, when the new minister came in office, the media called me and said, what's your thought on this new minister coming in? I said, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. And after 2 months plus, I'm still not impressed. He called us to a meeting one day, all chairmen and mayors of the country called us to a meeting, and he on the same day he had cabinet meeting. And he came about 2 hours late after to the meeting, after we had us meeting about 2 hours. And then rushed down a 15 minutes meeting. Rushed down a 15 minutes and said, we'll continue next week, and we'll take a deeper dive into it. I don't want to dive there for us diving. For us alone dive there. I don't want to dive there at all. Right? To this date, we have received no releases for material and supplies to maintain state traces on local roads. The Cuba Tabaqui Talpa Regional Corporation, Bal told you, in this financial year has only been allocated 4.5 million for local roads and bridges. That is 4.5 million to be divided into 14. This has to be divided into 14 councillors, which work out to be approximately $321,000 per councillor to repair roads, including landslip. You heard Councillor John Lizama speaking that his district is landslip city, and bridges in their districts. So his roads, landslide, bridges, with $321,000 councillors have to do all those work. That amount to only fixing probably one road. Probably only one road. John alone need that 4.5 million to fix Fletcher Road and those roads in Mamrel and Tilimac Road and so on. We have been allocated 4 million in the financial year for drainage and irrigation. which has to be divided among 14 councillors, work out to be approximately 285,000 per councillor. That alone is needed in Caronese to minimize and do some limited work there to alleviate the flooding in Caronese, that 4 million. We have been allocated 800,000 this financial year for development of recreation ground facilities. As I told you before, we have 104 recreation grounds in the CTTRC. How many grounds can be developed with that? Under the PNM, councillors have become beggars. We are begging sandpits per sand. Councillors in Kuva, Tabaki, Talparo, going by all them sandpit owners and begging them for 2 loads of sand and 3 loads of sand. People be begging quarry owners too for boulders to repair road. Councillor John Lizaban and I in Lasatau on a Ministry of Works road, a road that falls under the Ministry of Works Highways Division. We had to go by quarry and beg the owner for 4 loads of material to fix a landslide so the people could get in and out. That's what we come to now. There are some people within the region are providing material to get the work done in front of their premises and so on. I'm not sure if it's to applaud that or not, but that's something that they're providing the material and the corporation providing labor and equipment and so on to assist these communities and so on. The thing about that is, persons who may really need the work, they can't find, they don't have the money. They don't have the finance to buy material at all, so they have to wait. They have to wait. In Lasatau, that same landslip, the villagers, they make chichi. Poor humble villagers, most of them are little farmers and gardeners and so on. They had to put up money take out money from their pockets to buy material to fix the Ministry of Works road. That's what we come to now under the PNM. For the first time in my 19 years as a local government practitioner, that I am seeing this happening. I have served under Manin, I've served under the Honorable Kamala Persad Bisesa, and never have we been in such a situation. So it is not that we do not want to repair your grounds and so on and fix your roads and so on. It's just that we won't allocate the funds to do so. We are dependent on central government, as somebody said before, for allocation of funds. Let me tell you this. When the People's Partnership was in power under Kamala Persad Bisesa, with central government and local government working hand in hand, we got 21 pavilions constructed in the region of Kuba, Tabaki, Talparo. 23 play parks installed. 53 recreation grounds was illuminated. I cut ribbons, so back then, I was hurting me cutting ribbons. Prior to 2010, we had none of these. In Guarakra, in the constituency of Tabakit, we now have the biggest hardball night cricket league, and it's better attended than the regional games hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board. Dozens of vendors from nutsmen to burgers, South Lady, and many more will come out and make some money to take care of their families in these hard times under the PNM. You know how this night cricket league was made possible? It is because we had a government led by Kamala Persad Bisesa, who cared about people, who had vision, who understood the importance of recreation facilities within a community. She understood the importance of recreation facilities in communities, whereby she ensured that 51 recreation grounds was illuminated within the region of Kuba, Tabaki, Talparo. And I'll give you a short story as quick as I can. I know the time is of essence. It's a story, is an issue, an incident that's always stayed with me. That always stayed with me. Marvin Celestine is a name I like to call. He was a young man in Tabakit who had exceptional good skills in basketball. Real good skills. He could shoot the 3-point from beyond the 3-point line, layups, all the moves. He had the potential to become an NBA player. That's how good he was. He was 17 years then. Under Mr. Pandey and the National Gas Company, we got a brand new basketball court constructed in Tabakit. Brand new. And the NGC funded a basketball league then. So the league went on for a period of time, and after a time, the funds ran out, and PNM came in, and it wasn't funding the league again. Young Marvin Celestine used to meet me on the street and said to me, they call me Spencer Mike coming. When all starting back the league, boy, when all starting back the league, and I always tell them we don't have the funds for it, government not giving us the funds, and so on. But one morning, I got a call very early in the morning. They said to me, 3 men from Tabakit, young boys went from Tabakit, went into the forest in Beach to steal marijuana. 2 of them came back out in in a body bag. One of them was Marvin Celestine. And that always stayed with me. That's the importance of having sporting facilities in communities. Because you know the saying, the devil is fine, used for idle hands. So as I'm about to wrap, and I'll have to skip through some areas very quickly. In conclusion, my brothers and sisters, very shortly you'll be called upon to make a very important decision that will affect your lives and those of your loved ones one way or the next. The decision you make will affect your lives and the lives of your loved one one way or the next. The people are fed up with this waste of time PNM under Keith Rowley. They tell me that every day. They are saying that Keith Rowley must go. They are saying Imbert must go. They are saying Rohan must go. They are saying Gonzalez must go. As a matter of fact, they are saying all of them must go. As for me and my house, we cannot wait to vote out this PNM government. And I know you too cannot wait to do the same. My brothers and sisters, I thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. We also at this time like to welcome our Deputy Political Leader, Senator the Honorable Jolene John. Make some noise for Senator the Honorable Jolene John. Brothers and sisters, we thank you, Chairman Awong, one of the best chairpersons local government in Trinidad and Tobago has ever seen. And he said something very important. History will judge us. And when history judges Kamla Prasad Bisesa, she will be judged as the best prime minister this country has ever had. She will be judged as the best political leader the UNC has ever had. So all of our detractors, until the day you can have a record like Kamla Prasad Bisesa, either sit down or get out. Brothers and sisters, before COVID, they blamed Kamla. Then they blame COVID. And now Keith Rowley is blaming the war in Ukraine. But do not be fooled. It was Keith Rowley who brought back property tax. It is Keith Rowley and the PNM who has increased fuel prices. It is Keith Rowley and the PNM who has ensured that your food prices have gone up. Brothers and sisters, the People's National Movement is at war with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And together, we must defeat them. The next speaker is a warrior. They've given me a bio to read for this next speaker. You know, so on the bio they have that this next speaker is a former acting chairman of the UNC. She's currently the vice chair of the UNC. But Khadija Amin is more than that. Khadija Amin is a child of the United National Congress. She has fought for this party. She has even made jail for this party. She has been one of the youngest local government councillors. She has been the youngest chairperson of the Tunapuna Regional Corporation. A matter of fact, she has been the most successful chairperson of the Tunapuna Regional Corporation. Today, she is working to become, and she's nearly there, as the best member of parliament for St. Augustine. Let us welcome Sister Khadija Amin to the podium tonight.
Thank you very much, my brother Nicholas Morris, also a champion in the United National Congress. A special good evening to our political leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, our host tonight, my colleague and neighbor MP, Richard Sicharan, Dr. Richard Sicharan, a dentist and an extraordinary human being. Fellow speakers, tonight, and most of all, those of you who are listening either in person or live on our Facebook and YouTube feed. On my way here tonight, I hear our councillors speaking about things that you yourself experience. On the other hand, I hear Rohan Sinanan promising no flood by 2025. Well, he was saying that since 2015. And when he realized time running out on him, I noticed he has been changing his tune. He is now saying, well, everywhere there's a flood, you know, we can't really control that. So as councillors of the UNC, the councillors who actually work because UNC works and UNC performs, we again have to face the consequences of the incompetence of Rohan Sinanan and this PNM government. So councillors, brace yourselves. MPs, we have to brace ourselves. But this evening, I visited a couple of the masjids in St. Augustine constituency as part of my Ramadan outreach. And when I went to Back Street in Tunapuna, on the southern side of the Eastern Main Road, which falls in St. Augustine constituency, several residents came out. Well, apart from to share in the iftar, they came to complain that very recently a drainage project was done on the Eastern Main Road that channeled all the water to Back Street, and they had videos of the flooding. But you know what was curious? This project that the MP for Tunapuna, Esmond Ford, is part of, and he has to answer as well, it only caused flood relief on the Eastern Main Road by Disco Mart. All you know where Disco Mart is? All you know a fella named Rohan Sinanan? I want to ask, what is Rohan Sinanan's association with Disco Mart? What was the name before? And if he was part of sanctioning this project to alleviate flooding only by Disco Mart and channeling the water into the Back Street and Tunapuna areas there so that the people get flooded. And that is not the only example of areas where they only do projects to satisfy themselves, their friends, and their families and financiers. And that is why we have to wake up. We cannot fall for the sympathy and the tears they put in their eyes, the crocodile tears. They blame Kamala. They blame COVID. They blame the war in Ukraine. Not once will they take responsibility. So you see how on Tuesday the 19th, the UNC came out and stand up to say no to the hike in fuel price. You see how the UNC Women's Arm was out in Tunapuna on the Eastern Main Road by the Tunapuna market protesting high food prices. You see how the UNC Women's Arm was in Chaguanas protesting and standing up for those divers who lost their lives in Paria. We have to continue to stand up. And tonight I want to say to my UNC family, I am UNC and I am proud. And we must be UNC and proud. If we do not stand up for this country, who else will? The PNM has taken to attacking everybody who does not agree with them. If you are say anything against them, you are either UNC or you're unpatriotic. I am a citizen and a patriot of Trinidad and Tobago. That is why I continue to condemn the wickedness of this PNM government. And in strength, we will gain our strength in numbers. We must not be afraid to come out and stand up. And we must not be afraid that they will attack us. We must not be afraid, because if we stay back, the destruction that is happening now will be 10 times worse in the next few years. The PNM has been treating Trinidad and Tobago like a piper would treat a house. You ever see a house in the village where people gone away and think they're gone abroad and they leave one man in the house, but you know he's a piper? And what he did start to do? He sell out the stove. He sell out Petrotrin. He sell out the TV. He started selling furniture. You know what he going and start to do? He going and rip out the toilet bowl. He going and rip out the sink, and he's selling it down the road. The PNM has been selling our country like a scrap iron. And what we will have left afterwards, the pain will go deeper and deeper if we do not stand up and make a difference. This year, 2022, is a local government election. They have nothing to show. The PNM's biggest achievement in local government is Faris Alwari as Minister of Local Government. Utter failure. And they will come to try to tell us, well, we bring in local government reform. And next set up promises and propaganda and mamagai. I mentioned before that they plan to rename 2 corporations into boroughs, Diego Martin Borough and Siparia Borough. So they figure, listen, we need to put something on the table, like if we achieve something, you know. So they are going to name 2 corporations as boroughs. What difference will that make? What difference will that make if High Street in Siparia continues to flood and the bank had to close? What difference will it make for you to have just a name change to mamagai people more? We must not allow the PNM's mamagai and propaganda to seep into our psyche. We must stand against it. This year is a local government election, but more than that, it is the biggest opportunity that every person in this country has to register the objection to the PNM's failure, incompetence, and abuse on the citizens. It is not just about road and box drain, because they have failed in that, yes. It is about you making your voice heard. So tonight, I want to appeal to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, whether you are UNC or not. Once you are a citizen of this country, you must make a resolution as a citizen and patriot to stand bold and vote to get rid of the PNM government. That is the only way we will go forward. As a member of parliament, I could walk, I could visit my constituents, I could write letters and advocate and get little done. As councillors, you going and begging sandpit, man. They're making chichi in Lasatau, putting up little change to buy boulders. Where is the government? Collecting rent, billing box drain to alleviate flooding by their supermarkets, fixing up themselves, giving themselves land. All right. Giving themselves land and enriching themselves. And where are we? So I want to commend our political leader for leading the charge, for boldly standing in this fuel hike protest, but continuing to expose the PNM for what they are. And we will stand shoulder to shoulder and grow from strength to strength. I am Khadija Amin, I am UNC, and I am proud, and I am a patriot of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
Thank you very much, MP for St. Augustine, Ms. Khadija. I mean, we can do better than that for her. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of MP for Couva North, Mr. Ravi Ratiram. Our next speaker needs no introduction. A woman who is not afraid of speaking out against the injustices against the people of Trinidad and Tobago when we are so engulfed by the PNM. Senator John is eminently qualified former Minister of Government and currently the Deputy Political Leader of United National Congress. Indeed, she is the force to be reckoned with. Caroni East is privileged to welcome to the podium Senator and Deputy Political Leader, Ms. Jerlene John.
Thank you for your kind compliments and your kind introduction. I want to thank the Honorable Minister, MP. I got few didn't slip there. The MP for the hard-working, very hard-working, very versatile MP for Caroni East. I want to thank the Honorable Khadija Amin for always, she keeps it on topic and she's always focused on her area that she shadows, local government. She's very passionate about it. I want to thank all of the councillors who preceded me. I mean, they did a fantastic job. And you know, the leader of the UNC always says, give everybody a chance. So I want to thank you again, Caroni East, there's a very good crowd here tonight. Thank you for staying the course. Because as you're aware, the UNC is filled with content and program and events and initiatives. And without you, we will be no one. And as the MP who preceded me talked about, people talking down to you, talking at you, trying to insult us, trying to get us to back down. But you have stayed the course, even as you have stayed the course here this evening. Because you know the UNC stands steadfastly in the struggle for equity, for jobs, for opportunity, and for our democracy. Without Kamla Persad-Bissessar leading the UNC, this democracy would have been no more, I can tell you that. Because only yesterday, we saw, I don't know if some of you follow the news, the American Dr. Fauci, who's the medical advisor to President Biden, he said that in the US, the pandemic is more or less over. We saw a fella called Terence Dial Singh shedding some crocodile tears somewhere in Point 14 recently. And he said, well, he ain't sure if it's over, but they're closing down some facility or the other. Of course, as usual, they're just doing that as a stunt. It's a Hollywood production. Because today we saw where the Ministry of Health has said, I think they have 802 new cases, and that is what is being reported. Because a lot of people not turning up to the health institutions. And today in the same newspapers, we saw where there was a mother by the name of Sita Jagasar who was being buried, her funeral. And the police charged, on the advice or instruction of the DPP, her daughter, Miss Melissa Jagasar, for the murder. Sita, to many reading the newspaper, is just another statistic. At a time when women continue to be abused, to be the victim of violence, too many go missing, then found dead. And for this month of April alone, but can't even cover the month, just for last week into this week, right here in the vicinity of Las Lomas, St Helena, Arima, your next door neighbor, you had 3 men murdered in one evening on the 14th of April. One as young as 16-year-old. I mean, what could a 16-year-old, to me, a 16-year-old is a baby. What could a 16-year-old do to warrant being killed as punishment? Then you had last week, Friday, the horror of a police constable in his line of duty being shot in the back of his head. And up to now, I don't think they have found a suspect. Then you had on April 25th, 3 burnt bodies found. I mean, they found 2 and then they were looking for another one. On Wednesday 27th, which was yesterday, again, well, I mean, in Couva, you had 2 brothers, it appears, Harper and John Outham, killed at 6:30. That was earlier than this time. And, you know, when people read these reports, we are just curious bystander. But to the daughter of Sita Jagasar, who I mentioned first, who was in the papers today, her daughter Marilyn said, Mommy was my foundation. I had no care in the world because of her. All I had to do was to cook and go to work. I didn't know what the word responsibility was or what it actually meant because she stood with us from childhood until womanhood. I have lost my love, my strength, my corrector, and most of all, my mother. She was my guidance. You see, when these tragedies occur, lives are broken and shattered. And then you have a prime minister. All he has to offer is, this is a violent place. So he normalizes murders and rapes, the abuse of our citizens. A daughter beating her mother to death. School children fighting viciously. Tonight, I think it was MP Councillor Rampersad who spoke about that. Fighting all over the place. Crazy. Senseless murders every day. And Rowley's response is, Trinidad and Tobago is a violent place. And it appears that complaining or refusing to accept that this is our lot has been deemed unpatriotic. Preached on a pulpit on Easter Sunday by no less a person than the Archbishop, a day in the Christian calendar, and for others observers who feel it's a day of redemption, renewal, restitution, a day of hope. On that day, as it was widely reported, the Archbishop of Port of Spain said, he urged our people not to continue to make negative comments about their country and urge them to strive to be more patriotic. You see, just as MP Amin said, they attack everybody who stand up against them, and then, of course, they have their famous sleeper cells who come in and back them up and make it normal. So we must just sit, take it. It's okay. You just take it. It is because for the Archbishop, it is unpatriotic. for us to stand up and say, wrong is wrong. It is wrong to raise the price of fuel. It is wrong that our children cannot go to school. That is unpatriotic. And I must quote, I know it's getting late, but sometimes, we have to just do what we have to do. Because we have to put things into context. And a man who came before us, Martin Luther King, he was a pastor, and a very talented one too. He said, it is not enough for me to stand before you tonight and condemn riots. It would be morally irresponsible for me to do that without at the same time condemning the contingent, intolerable conditions that exist in our society. Had our Archbishop condemned the wrongs in our society, we could have swallowed that. But just to tell us, don't speak out because you're unpatriotic. What is beautiful and positive or patriotic about the murder of Sita Jagasa, made even more horrible because it was done at the hands of her daughter. So many unspeakable horrors being faced by the vulnerable, and we are to say nothing but bow in praise and supplication toward their dictator. And any and every problem known to man is manifest in Trinidad and Tobago, and at this time, most as a direct result of Keith Rowley's lack of work, lack of foresight, lack of leadership, and lack of setting a good example. But he's happily on a foreign trip to God knows where, and he tells and leaves Trinidad to collapse further. And the priest tells you to say nothing. Don't worry, be happy. Because you will recall when Kamala Prasad Bissasa's prime minister was hounded out of the residence, she had to go to a home in San Fernando, thinking she'll get some peace, because at the residence, they wanted to know how much rice she eat, and she put Irish potato on the rice. And even when she went to her home, they were harassing her, to the extent that Easter Sunday, I got a call from the media asking me about her whereabouts, and our leader had to present proof of life in a picture that she was happily in her backyard garden. That is what they want to do to the UNC. But Rowley pick up here with the famous bagman and keeper of his secrets, the young one. And that's okay. Nobody must complain because you're unpatriotic. Even when you are citizens, you have paid for that. You have paid for his first-class ticket, for him sitting down and ho-ho-hoing somewhere God knows where, and lurking around the corridors of the Capitol in Washington like a vagrant. He has nothing to offer, nothing to bring. The same way he went to, was it Qatar recently? And then said when he come back, he having a big press conference. Then you hear flight was delayed. You have never heard from him. You know why? He has achieved nothing. He went on a line. Because when the thing gets hot here, he just disappears. And that's okay. But they want to know the whereabouts of Kamala Prasad Bisesa. And she has to present a picture. So that is why Rowley can close down Petrotrin. Thousands of direct and indirect jobs gone. Major foreign exchange earner gone. And even when the board of Petrotrin did not tell the cabinet to do that, they just closed it down without any remorse. And we ought not to complain. So for Rowley, he has a free pass because he's saying, if the priest could play, who is he? If the priest says so, who is he? Our children have no devices. Now they are suffering from all kind of mental dysfunctionality. But that's okay. Do not complain. Do not complain when you see women outside of Massey with signs. I need to feed my children. I need food. Don't complain. Don't worry. Be happy. Thousands of our children coming out of university, they can't get jobs. No jobs. Why do you think they can't get jobs? Because the government, who's supposed to be facilitatory in this exercise, in terms of creating the facilitatory environment, they're doing nothing. They are doing nothing but talking foolishness, telling lies, dodging, and involved in the worst kind of corruption that we have ever seen in this country, because they have no shame. This is a government with absolutely no shame. And it's not about us complaining. It is what it is. And nobody could shut me up. Because when I was of age and I looked at my birth certificate, the first thing on it is not even my name, it's Trinidad and Tobago. And the Constitution says, I have freedom of expression. Yeah. I could talk where I want and when I want. And I got to do just that. And nobody can call me unpatriotic. You can't go and stand on probably the most influential pulpit in this country and call people unpatriotic. What kind of person are you? And don't tell me that I can't say that. This is a free country. I could say what I want just as he could say what he wants. And Rowley could say what he wants. We are crying out because we want justice. Our children are dying not too far from here. Every day they're saying they were planting food on the heights of Aripo. Now all you're planting is dead bodies, and we must say nothing. We must just say, don't worry, be happy. So, I mean, there was a different sermon preached at St. Peter's Square in Rome, I must tell you, because I listened. And that priest, he put his finger straight in the wound. And he spoke about all the ills in the world. Because he used his pulpit for good. Because he knows when he spoke the word, it will be reported across the globe. And he brought attention to all, or most, as many of the issues, whether it was the cry of children, he said, together with the suffering children around the world who are victims of violence, hunger or lack of medical care. He appealed for leaders to hear the cry of their suffering and to make decisions in favor of peace. What if we had heard such a sermon? You don't think we'd have been better for it? So, ladies and gentlemen, our UNC people, we may be of different faiths, believe in different teachings, but it mainly takes us to the same space of faith, hope, and charity. I want you to keep brave. I mean, many times you probably feel worn because people, the slings and the arrows that are thrown at you. But you have a very good MP. You have a good man who's standing with you, led by the Honorable Kamla Prasad-Bisesa. They say a lot about us, but I promise, as our councillors have promised, and as MP Amin leads many protests, as MP Sicharan serves you, and as he comes on next and he'll give an account of that stewardship, and as the Honorable Kamla Prasad-Bisesa fights relentlessly on your behalf and on behalf of our great democracy. They call us many names, but as sure as daybreak tomorrow will follow this night, the sun will rise again. And just as I had quoted the great Martin Luther King before, I want to close again with a little quote. He said, I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crushed to earth will rise again. How long? Not long, because no lie can live forever. How long? Not long, because the arc of the moral universe is long and it bends towards justice. The UNC, led by Kamla Prasad-Bisesa, will not rest until there is justice in Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
Thank you very much, DPL John, for that very moving contribution. Carney East, Trinidad and Tobago, as we come to one of, I know Carney East wants to hear their MP now, as we come to that moment, tonight we are united as a nation concerned for a better tomorrow. Tonight we are facing very dark times, but I want you to remember in 2010, we were also facing very dark times. And Kamla Prasad-Bisesa stood very strong for you, and she rescued this country. I want you to remember, as Prime Minister, while Kamla Prasad-Bisesa gave laptops to all our children, Keith Rowley and the People's National Movement abused and misused millions from the NGC. While Kamla Prasad-Bisesa gave every mother a baby grant, Keith Rowley and the People's National Movement has fired over 50,000 people in this country. But I want you to have hope, as the Deputy Political Jolene John said. I want you to have faith, because in your parliament, you have the strongest leader of the opposition fighting for you. And you have the strongest opposition this country has ever seen. Week after week, they fight for you by posing questions, by posing motions. In Kamla Prasad-Bisesa, you have a leader who has given herself to you. You have a leader who loves you more than her own self. So brothers and sisters, tonight we in the UNC ask you to keep strong. We ask you to stand with us. And tonight we bring on a man who is also fighting for you with the United National Congress in our parliament. He's a man who gives himself to people. He's a qualified dentist. Many times he works for free to help individuals, because that is Dr. Rishi Sicharan. I met Dr. Rishi Sicharan over 10 years ago with the charity work he has been doing in Carney East when he was the chairman of this constituency. Dr. Sicharan has just graduated as a lawyer. Because why? Dr. Citron is pushing himself to ensure that he can fight for you, the people of Caroni East. Let us welcome your Member of Parliament, Dr. Richard Citron.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for your kind introduction. Honorable political leader of our great party and opposition leader of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, Senior Counsel, who is viewing our broadcast, parliamentary colleagues, Senator John, Member of Parliament Amin, local government representatives, including Chairman Awang, constituency officials, activists, supporters, viewers, and listeners in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world, welcome to Caroni East. And what a beautiful crowd we have here tonight. The United National Congress family of Caroni East is truly happy to host you here tonight, and thank you for being part of this large audience. I would also like to give greetings to our Muslim brothers and sisters, Ramadan Mubarak, during this very holy time that they are currently going through. And tonight I would like to discuss a few major and urgent national issues that are concerning Trinidad and Tobago. Firstly, I want to air the serious matter of our students' health following the sudden resumption of classes during the COVID-19 lockdown. My brothers and sisters, this government has again failed the nation on this matter, and we are now facing a potentially explosive medical condition. As you would have read today on the newspapers, that there are over 100 students from over 16 schools that have currently tested positive for COVID-19 within days of the resumption of in-school classes at their various schools. A further 40 teachers are awaiting medical confirmation of COVID-19 status and have been quarantined. And that is the situation only within the first few days of schools reopening. The harsh truth is that we may be well facing a medical disaster that may be upon us. The government is handling this COVID-19 reopening with utter recklessness, similar to which they had done during the entire pandemic period. If you remember 1 year ago, the Prime Minister said in April of 2021, Easter time, Tobago is open for all. At that time, we had less than 140 deaths from COVID-19. 1 year later, unfortunately, and may they rest in peace, we have over 3,800 deaths. This matter is a national scandal, my friends. The government is playing with the health of our citizens, our students, our teachers by not providing the necessary resources that they need to properly sanitize classrooms. The Minister of Education and the entire government, by association, is treating with this emergency with its typical red tape and bureaucracy, while our student lives are at stake. I wish to publicly advise this evening that this situation could get much worse in the coming weeks. The opposition, including Kamla Persad-Bissessar and myself, have been calling on the government to provide safe learning spaces to implement a wide variety of protocols. The Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association has also asked the Minister of Education to implement stringent COVID-19 policies and preventative measures. The government has not done so. The National Parent Teachers Association has described the situation as alarming and has called for a meeting with various stakeholders. But the government continues to drag its feet on this critically important matter. And what is frightening is that the government has reopened schools with our young children and they had no plan in place. This government is operating by VAPs. You recall the teachers of the Arima Girls Catholic Primary School walking out on the job because of lack of sanitation on the compound. Parents and guardians had to rush to the school to pick up their children. You remember 60 students from Irie High School at Siparia had to be home quarantined after they came into contact with a COVID-19 positive person. I would like to remind you also of the revelation of Tutor's president, Mrs. Antonia De Freitas, and what she said is that many schools have not received the necessary funding in order to buy sanitation equipment and supplies in order to keep the school environment safe. The Tutor's president has also said some schools have inconsistent sanitation protocols, and students' health, and by extension, the teachers' health are also in jeopardy. An official from the Tobago House of Assembly also had to remind this government that until there's herd immunity in the population, there can be no herd immunity at schools. Brothers and sisters, you all know how COVID-19 can spread very rapidly, and that is why we are all here socially distanced. But we must realize that our young students, those aged 5 to 11 who have not have access to vaccines, are medically exposed. And let me explain to you the difference between our country's protocols and, let's say, that of the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, every student must do a rapid antigen test every 3 days, every single student. And if one child in a class tests positive for COVID-19, the entire class has to do a test. And what they are doing here in Trinidad and Tobago, they are not providing the rapid antigen tests to the schools. And what they have told teachers and principals to do is every 3 days, a parent has to fill out a form to state if their child has a runny nose or is coughing or is sneezing or has any symptoms, and sign it. A form could never tell you if your child has COVID-19. Right now in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris has COVID-19. She's COVID-19 positive, and she has no symptoms. She only found out she was COVID-19 positive when they did a random antigen test on her. Otherwise, she could have given the President of the United States, who's over 80 years old, COVID-19, and that is a life or death situation. So why isn't our government taking similar action? That is the question. They are only screening for symptomatic cases and ignoring asymptomatic carriers, right? A temperature check when you enter the school could never tell you if a child is COVID-19 positive but asymptomatic, and what that means is that the child has no symptoms. And what that would do is that child would then go into school, would spread the virus to, let's say, the entire class, and then everybody in that class would then go home to their parents and grandparents. So you want to know why we have 800 cases today? And the minister said it's not because of schools reopening. Obviously, it is because schools are reopened, right? Now, we also have the situation where some teachers are saying that they are told only to tell the students in close proximity of a child who has tested positive for COVID-19 that those children should isolate and quarantine, right? So only if your child sits very close to a COVID-19 positive person, then you would be told that your child sat next to a COVID-19 student, and they are not informing the entire class, only nearby students. And these protocols by the Ministry of Health are putting everyone at risk. The Ministry of Health should immediately procure rapid antigen tests at discounted prices from PAHO's strategic fund. So PAHO, which is our governing body for medicine, has a strategic fund where we can buy rapid antigen tests and not at the retail price. They give it to us at basically half price. So instead of paying $12 US for an antigen test kit, they sell it to the government of Trinidad and Tobago for $5 US. And they do this to allow poorer nations, such as Trinidad and Tobago, to have access to facilities for testing for COVID-19. This is the international standard for testing. And I would like the Minister of Education to state the official position on informing parents who are in the same classroom, the parents of students who are in the same classroom as a COVID-19 student. Are you telling the parents of everyone in the class that there was a COVID-19 positive student in that classroom? Because a child doesn't only sit at their seat for the entire day. They go out at recess, they go to the bathroom, they eat lunch with their friends. So you cannot just identify the ones that they sit next to during class. That child speaks to other children during the day. I would also like to remind you that the nation of Trinidad and Tobago is barely 50% vaccinated, and almost half the population has not been vaccinated against this transmissible disease. If a child goes home and infects their grandparent, that grandparent then has to face Terrence Dialsing parallel healthcare system, right? And that healthcare system has a shortage of nurses, it has a shortage of drugs, and the doctors are burnt out, right? Brothers and sisters, this issue takes a reasoned and level-headed response. There must be urgent and frank discussions on how we can best get through this situation. And while everyone wants the economy to reopen, it must be done in a safe and controlled manner. There's a need for proper leadership on this issue. So what I would like to say to Minister Dayal Singh is that, Minister, if you need additional rapid antigen test kits, make a request in the mid-year budgetary review for the purchase of these test kits from PAHO. That is all you need to do. That is coming up in a couple of weeks. And supply these test kits to schools around the nation. That is the international standard. Not to fill out a form if your child has symptoms, but to actually test the child. I would like you all to speak out on this issue for the good of our students. Secondly, permit me to address you on another pressing matter, and that is of flooding. After 3 days of rain, and some rain today as well, we in Carinese are waiting anxiously for floods in our communities. But luckily, we are in the dry season. The soil is still very dry, and it could absorb a lot of water. But we may not be so fortunate in months to come. Brothers and sisters, this is the story of Carinese, the lack of maintenance and rehabilitation by the Ministry of Works. In other words, continued neglect and negligence by the Ministry of Works. I'd like you to throw back your minds to the horrible floods of 2018. And right after those floods, the Minister of Works undertook a survey of the Caroni River, the 40 kilometers of the Caroni River. And what they found was some parts were 16 feet deep and other parts were 1 foot deep. And Minister Rohan Sinanan promised extensive works to be done to raise the banks and to desill the Caroni River. And this exercise was supposed to be done with the clearing of tributaries that lead to the Caroni River. There's also another issue. There was the urgent need for the upgrading of pumps that we have along the Caroni River. And 3 mobile pumps were assigned to our Caroni River at the cost of $18 million. Do you know that during the last Standing Finance Committee, I asked Minister Rohan Sinanan what was the status of these pumps? And he told me that the contractor who was asked to order these pumps ordered the wrong pumps. So right now, we still do not have 3 of those 3 brand new pumps to service the Caroni River. We are hoping to get it before the rainy season. I am pressuring them as much as I can, but they have to return these 3 pumps that they bought first and then reorder the 3 correct pumps. Total and complete incompetence, right? So the situation remains the same with the Caroni River. Should we have heavy rainfall, we don't know what next we can expect. And we just pray that that would not happen. Our residents and farmers remain at risk, and many people are nervous and concerned of what can happen in the coming rainy season. You all will recall your great loss. Water's in your house, you're losing all your furniture, your electrical equipment. You could be exposed to leptospirosis, right? Other forms of infection. But this PNM government does not care. They do not care about the people of Caroni East. The regional corporation under Chairman Awang has assisted as best as they can in flood alleviation, but there's only so much they can do. They are only getting funds to pay salaries. The Office of Disaster Preparedness has been ineffective, and they must improve their response to flooding disasters. Communities such as Las Lomas, St Helena, Madras Road, Kelly Village, and environs, they remain under constant threat of floods. And on top of all of this, the floods of July and August of 2021, persons still have not received compensation for these funds, from these floods. And that is the disturbing state of affairs that we here in Caroni East are facing under this PNM regime. I urge you once again to speak out on this matter as it affects your lives. I am trying the best as I can do. I am writing letters, I am asking them in Parliament, but we will demand action and we will demand service for Caronis. Lastly, I'd just like to briefly talk about another vital social and economic matter, and that is the matter of national security. And nothing illustrates PNM incompetence more than their failure on national security. In its 2015 election manifesto, the PNM government promised a whole-of-government approach to national security. The party said all ministries and government agencies would share responsibility and be accountable for security and safety of the state. They made promises, promises, and more promises. But my friends, look at the state of our country today. Many people are fleeing this country in order to protect their families. Many, many more have to invest in security cameras and various other types of equipment. People have self-imposed curfews on themselves for fear of being attacked. Under this PNM government, Trinidad and Tobago has become a giant bloody killing field. For the first time in our country's history, crime is rampant in rural communities. Gangsters are everywhere. Drugs and illegal arms operations take place on almost every corner. Hardworking fishermen are terrorized at sea. Taxi drivers are being hijacked. And our once very quiet communities in Caranese are now besieged by crime. On May the 24th of 2021, I asked the Minister of National Security in Parliament what specific measures were implemented to curb crime in and around Caroni East. And what he told me in a very condescending manner was that many, many strategies have been implemented. Right? He said the police service is using very proactive and scientific approaches, and exercises are being conducted. When Minister Hines speaks, you don't understand a word he says, you know. He just speaks and you listen, and then you spend a little time trying to figure out what he just said. It's just PNM old talk, right? Just excuses after excuses. My friend, the crime epidemic in Caranese has only gotten worse. There have been murders at Mont Plaisir, Londonville, Bonaventure Road, Ramlal Trace, Cali Village, St Helena, Sampson Street Extension, and various parts of Cunupia. There have been countless thefts and robberies, shootings, kidnappings, human trafficking, and assaults. Our districts are no longer safe as they were just a few years ago under the People's Partnership. So much for the strategies of the PNM government, but I'll ask him that question again tomorrow, because I have that question posed to him as a question on notice. There's an urgent need for functioning CCTV cameras in St Helena, Kelly Village, Cunupia Enterprise, and many other areas in Caranese. There must be improved community policing and outreach programs. More police stations and police posts are needed, and more opportunities are needed for our youths. The Police Youth Club must take a more active role in assisting us with the various youths that may have been dislocated due to the pandemic and may not have been going to school. The government has a responsibility to protect our citizens. But just a few days ago, the Prime Minister said Trinidad and Tobago is just simply a violent place. And that is PNM governance for you. I ask you to be vigilant and to insist that this government deals with crime in Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot remain idly while our brothers and sisters are being killed. We have lost more than 3,800 citizens to COVID-19, and may they rest in peace. And we have lost so many others to crime. And we cannot rely on this hapless government. So in closing, I will just ask you to look out and be your brother's keeper. We must be attentive. We must mobilize. And the PNM government is living on borrowed time. We must organize and we must rally for the return of the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessor as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. That is our only hope for good governance and prosperity for the next generation. Keep the faith, my brothers and sisters. Stay strong. The sun will soon rise again. Long live our political leader, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessor. Long live our great party, United National Congress. And I thank you all for spending tonight with us. Thank you very much.
Let's hear it one more time for our sitting MP for Caranese, Dr. Richard Cicharan. And I'm sure with our distinguished MPs and councillors of the United National Congress, we will return this country to a better life again. So, without further ado, I want to invite one of our youths who is coming all the way from Rabinstab to address you at this time.
A pleasant good night to the ladies and gentlemen here this evening, and to our political leader, Kamla Persad-Bissessar. On behalf of our Member of Parliament for Caroni East, Dr. Richard Sitaran, and the Caroni East team, we would like to extend a special thanks to our speakers, community activists, aldermen, local government representatives, MP Khadija Amin, Senator Jerlene John, Chairman of the Kuva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation, Mr. Henry Awang, and councillors for taking their time to voice their opinions on issues affecting the community. We would also like to thank the persons behind the scenes for making this evening a success. Also, to you, my fellow constituents, a very special thank you for your time to attend and support us at this meeting here at St Helena Eco Park. Please have a great night and reach home safely. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Sharada Gopalchand. At this time, I just want to invite you to partake in our doubles at the back of where you are sitting at the washrooms. Thank you very much, and do return to your home safely.